They had been the kind of couple everyone envied. Chukwudi and Adaeze met during NYSC and built a life that glowed like a testimony. He was calm and calculating, she, vibrant and warm. After 12 years of marriage and 3 beautiful children, their life in the expansive mansion tucked away in one of the upscale neighborhoods of Enugu felt like something out of a dream. Laughter echoed down the marbled corridors, the children's giggles fluttering like music between the open glass doors. Friends called them the perfect couple. But sometimes, even silence hums with secrets. It started subtly. A change in Adaeze's smile, it became practiced, like a reflex. Her phone, once carelessly abandoned on counters, now remained glued to her body. Her mood shifted too quickly. She'd stay out longer after errands. Chukwudi noticed, but said nothing at first. He'd learned long ago that not every battle required a voice. Then came the scent, one that didn't belong to him. It clung to her neck on nights she claimed to be tired. He didn't confront her. He watched. He waited. A quiet app installed on her phone, a friend in telecommunications pulling call logs, and one late-night drive that led him to an unlit corner near a modest hotel. Everything he feared was confirmed. Through the cracked window of his car, he watched Adaeze and a man whose face he recognized too well, Uchenna. Her ex. The one she claimed had moved to Canada, the one she swore never mattered. Chukwudi drove home that night with his knuckles white on the steering wheel, but his face calm, almost peaceful. That was when the real questions began to bubble in his mind. Not about the betrayal. That, he had accepted like a quiet stab. It was the children. The resemblance he had once admired now haunted him. Without breathing a word, he arranged for a discreet DNA test. The samples were taken without the children noticing, just cotton swabs, carefully labeled and sealed, sent off through a contact in Abuja. He waited a week. When the results came, they came like thunder. Chidubem, age 10, his son. Amarachi, age 8, his daughter. Ibuka, age 5, also his. But the 6-month-old, little Samto, was not. That night, Adaeze came into the bedroom humming a lullaby. She leaned over to kiss his cheek. Chukwudi didn't move. He just looked at her with eyes that had seen too much. And still, he said nothing. He waited until she slept, then slipped from the bed. The baby slept in a bassinet in the adjacent room, tiny fists twitching in a dream. Chukwudi stood over him for a long time, his thoughts loud, chaotic. He picked the child up slowly, cradling him like glass. Outside, the air was heavy. A dark breeze rolled through the compound. The mansion's backyard stretched into shadows, and at the far end, the old concrete well stood silent. It had been sealed once, but reopened for renovations. It yawned open now like an ancient mouth. As he approached, footsteps scurried behind him. Chukwudi. Chukwudi, please. Adaeze's voice cracked the stillness. She had woken to find the baby missing. Her cries pierced the air like blades. She dropped to her knees behind him, her wrapper loosening. Biko. I beg you. I made a mistake, but the child is innocent. Chukwu gozi don't do this. Chukwudi turned slowly, the baby quiet in his arms. His eyes locked with hers. He didn't speak. Not yet. Adaeze crawled forward on her knees, gravel biting into her skin. The moonlight caught the tears streaking her face, turning them into silver rivers. She reached for the hem of Chukwudi's trousers, clutching it with trembling fingers. Her voice was barely audible now, raw from screaming. I was weak. I didn't plan it, Chukwudi, I swear. It was only once, only once. I thought he couldn't father children. The words fell from her mouth like broken glass, each one worse than the last. Chukwudi didn't flinch. He looked down at her, this woman he had once fought the world for, the woman he had built an empire around. Her head was bowed low, but he could see the outline of her desperation. Behind her, the mansion stood in solemn silence, as if the very walls refused to bear witness to what was unfolding. He turned back to the well. You named him Samto, he said finally, his voice low and cold. Samto Chukwu. Join me in praising God. Was that supposed to be a joke? Adaeze sobbed louder. Please, he's just a baby, he doesn't know anything. Chukwudi inhaled sharply, feeling the baby's small heartbeat against his chest. It was steady. Innocent. So unaware of the truth that had set his world ablaze. "You broke me, Adaeze," he said, not turning around. "You broke this house. You buried our trust in lies and watched it rot. I'll do anything. I'll leave, just let me take him, don't hurt him, I'm begging you." Her wail rose again, echoing off the compound walls like a ghostly chant. A neighbor's dog barked distantly. Somewhere in the main house, Amarachi stirred in her sleep and murmured her brother's name. Chukwudi took one step closer to the well. He could see the darkness inside it now, deep, endless. Adaeze lunged, grabbing at his leg again. "He's still a child, Chukwudi. Let me carry this in alone, don't stain your hands with it." He looked down at the infant once more. Samto had opened his eyes, wide and curious. They weren't Chukwudi's eyes. Not the warm brown he passed to all his children. These were different. Pale, almost golden. Just like Uchena's. Something inside him twisted. He raised the child. Adaeze screamed. A sound that didn't belong to a human, it came from something deeper, more primal. She leapt up, clawing at him, sobbing so violently her body shook. The baby whimpered, sensing the storm. Chukwudi stood frozen. And then, the back gate creaked. He turned sharply. A figure was standing there. Shadowed by the darkness. Unmoving. His heart lurched. No one was supposed to be awake. No one else was supposed to know. The figure stepped forward, slow and deliberate. A faint beam from the nearby street lamp spilled across his face. It was Ebuka. 5 years old, barefoot, clutching his Spider-Man pajama shirt. His wide eyes glistened as he looked from his father to the baby in his arms, then to his mother crumpled on the ground. "Daddy," he said softly, "why is Mummy crying? Why are you outside with Samto?" The night stilled. Even the crickets stopped singing. Chukwudi didn't answer right away. His chest rose and fell with the weight of 1,000 words he couldn't say in front of that small, unbroken heart. He looked down at the child in his arms, Samto, who had begun to wriggle slightly, releasing a soft, gurgling sound as if trying to speak to his brother. Adaeze scrambled to her feet, wiping her face. "Ebuka, my son, go inside, go back to bed." But Ebuka didn't move. "Is Daddy going to throw Samto away?" The question struck like lightning. Adaeze let out another sob and staggered forward. "Please. Chukwudi, please don't let him see this." Chukwidi's hands were trembling now. Not from rage. Not from heartbreak. From the voice of his son, the one he raised, taught how to ride a bicycle, sang lullabies to in thunderstorms. He had wanted justice. Needed it. But justice was starting to look like something else entirely in the eyes of a child watching from the shadows. He turned slowly, facing the well once more. The silence of the pit seemed to whisper to him, daring him to cross a line he could never uncross. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His arms felt heavier than stone. "Daddy," Ebuka's voice was closer now. "Did Samto do something bad?" Chukwudi couldn't answer. He was still staring into the abyss. Then the sound came. A shuffle, no, 2 feet running on tiles. The other children, Amarachi and Chidibem, had come outside. The front door hung ajar behind them. They had woken up. Now they stood there, side by side, wrapped in nightgowns and confusion. All 3 children stared at their father holding their baby brother near the edge of something they didn't understand. Their faces were lit by moonlight and fear. "Daddy," Amarachi whispered, "don't drop Samto." And something cracked inside him. Something deep. Something final. Chukwudi sank to his knees. The baby let out a soft cry. Adaeze collapsed behind him, covering her mouth to muffle the sobs racking her body. The air was thick with emotion, too thick for any child to breathe. He turned his head, slowly, facing the 3 children he knew were his. They hadn't chosen this. They hadn't broken anything. And neither had the baby in his arms. But the pain, the betrayal, it still burned. Chukwudi looked at Adaeze. She was on the ground, her face hidden in her palms, mumbling prayers and apologies in broken Igbo. The children waited. Samto whimpered again, curling his tiny fingers into Chukwudi's shirt. And just then, the compound floodlight blinked on. A sharp, sudden glow that lit up the well, the family, and the open scars between them. In that blinding moment, a door inside the house creaked. Someone else had woken up. Someone who had heard everything. The door groaned wider with that unmistakable sound, the echo of hinges that hadn't been oiled in months. Slow, dragging footsteps followed, firm against the tile. From the shadows of the hallway, Mama Chukwudi emerged. His mother. She stood in her wrapper and oversized scarf, holding a wooden cane she didn't always need but liked to carry like a badge of authority. Her sharp eyes scanned the scene before her, pausing on each face, the children huddled in confusion, Adaeze still on her knees, and her son, Chukwudi, kneeling by the well with a baby in his arms. The wind stirred her scarf slightly. She said nothing at first. Just looked. Then she spoke, her voice quiet but hard like dry iron. "So this is what my son has become." Chukwudi didn't turn. "Mama," he said, hoarse, "go inside." "I will not," she replied. "You think I didn't hear the shouting? Or feel that something evil was waking up in this house tonight?" She stepped closer, her cane tapping against the tiles. Adaeze instinctively shuffled backward, guilt wrapped around her like chains. "Mama," Chukwudi said again, more firmly. "This matter is not for you. You are holding a child over a well, Chukwudi." Her voice cut sharper. "Your own hands, meant for protection, are ready to kill. And you're telling me it is not my matter." He finally turned to face her, and what she saw in his eyes made her steady herself with the cane. Not just grief. Not just betrayal. But something darker. Something. "He's not mine," he said, eyes red. "The others are, but this one belongs to that bastard Uchenna." Mama was silent for a breath. Then she turned to Adaeze. "You did this?" Adaeze lowered her head and whispered, "Yes." Mama's face contorted, not just in disappointment, but in something deeper. Pain. Shame. Her hands tightened around the cane. Then, to everyone's surprise, she laughed. A short, bitter sound. "You see this life," she said, shaking her head. "This mansion. This wealth. These beautiful children. All of it sitting on a grave of lies." She walked toward Chukwudi now, closer to the well. "I carried you for 9 months," she said. "Raised you with my bare hands when your father died. I watched you suffer, rise, and build. And now, you want to throw all that into a pit because of what this woman did. It's not just what she did, Mama. It's who the child is." Mama stood directly in front of him now. "And who are you, Chukwudi? Are you God? Are you the judge of innocent babies?" The baby stirred again, small mouth opening in confusion. Chukwudi's grip faltered. The well was still there, silent, waiting. Then, from behind, Chidubem stepped forward. He held something in his small hands. It was a drawing, crumpled and done in crayon. A family picture. Himself, Amarachi, Ibuka, their mom, and their dad. And right there in the corner, a messy little scribble, Samto, with a smile. He handed it to his father without a word. Chukwudi took it with trembling hands. And something in him gave way. His shoulders slumped. He pulled the baby close, tight against his chest, holding him like a father should. The child whimpered once, then calmed. Chukwudi let out a breath he'd been holding for years. Mama reached out and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "Now carry your cross, my son," she said. "But don't bury your soul in that well." He nodded. But from behind him, Adaeze suddenly rose to her feet, swaying like a candle in the wind. Her voice, barely more than a whisper, carried a fresh kind of terror. "I didn't tell Uchenna about the baby," she said. "I didn't tell anyone." Mama turned. "So?" Adaeze's eyes widened. "Then who told him to come here tonight?" Chukwudi froze. Behind them, a car engine hummed to life in the street. And tires began rolling toward the gate. The low growl of the engine grew louder, rumbling like distant thunder. Everyone turned toward the gate. It was automatic, sensor-controlled, but tonight, it had been left open. A mistake. Or maybe a sign. Headlights spilled through the compound like searchlights, sweeping over the garden, the porch, the children's stunned faces. The vehicle crept in slowly. A black SUV, tinted windows, plate number barely visible through the dust. Chukwudi stood, clutching the baby tightly now, adrenaline returning to his limbs. Mama stepped beside him, lifting her chin like a woman who had faced many storms. Adaeze, pale and shaking, took a step back. The SUV stopped. The engine cut. Silence. Then the driver's door opened. And Uchenna stepped out. He was taller than Chukwudi remembered, leaner, wearing a casual kaftan and that smug, quiet confidence he'd always carried back in university, before Adaeze chose Chukwudi over him. But now, the confidence had turned cold. He didn't speak at first. Just stood there, his eyes scanning the compound like it belonged to him. His gaze landed on the well, then on Chukwudi, then, last, on the baby in his arms. He smiled. A slow, poisonous smile. "I came to collect what's mine." Adaeze gasped, stumbling forward. "What? How did you?" "I have ears, Adaeze," Uchenna said smoothly. "And friends in quiet places. You thought you could hide my son." "He's not your son," Chukwudi said, voice hardening. "You may have fathered him, but you don't know him. You don't get to claim him like property." Uchenna tilted his head. "Is that so? So what now? You raise my child in your house, call him your son while you spit in my face." "You spat in mine first," Chukwudi snapped. "When you crept back into my wife's bed." Uchenna's smile widened. She never really left it. Adaeze let out a choked cry. Mama stepped between her and Uchenna like a lioness. "Watch your tongue before you speak to my son again," she hissed. Uchenna's eyes narrowed. "Old woman, this is not your fight." "Everything in this house is my fight," she shot back. "And you should be grateful you weren't met with dogs and bullets at the gate." Chukwudi stepped forward, baby still in arms. "Let me make something clear, Uchenna. This is my house. This child, lives because I chose mercy tonight. You don't get to walk in here and lay claim to what you abandoned years ago." The baby stirred, sensing the tension. Uchenna's fists clenched. Chukwudi moved closer until he stood just a breath away. "You want to take something from me," he whispered. "Try it." The air between them thickened. Uchenna's eyes flicked to the baby. For a split second, his posture changed, not aggression, but uncertainty. Maybe even fear. And then, headlights appeared again in the distance. Another car. A police siren chirped once, just once, loud and sharp. Uchenna's eyes widened. "What did you do?" Chukwudi smiled, his first real smile that night. "I have ears too. And better friends." The second vehicle turned into the compound, blue lights flashing. Two officers stepped out, one holding a folder, the other scanning the surroundings. "Mr. Chukwudi," the taller officer said, "we received your call." Chukwudi nodded. "This man trespassed. He's been harassing my family and threatening to take a child without legal claim." Uchenna's face twitched. "You'll need to come with us," the officer said firmly. Uchenna tried to speak, stuttered, stopped, then finally spat on the ground. "This isn't over." But it was. The officers placed hands on his shoulders and walked him to the car. As the SUV backed out of the compound, the gate slid shut behind it, this time locked. Silence returned. Chukwudi turned to his family. His children. His wife. He looked at Adaeze, and for a moment, no words passed between them. Only history. Damage. And some thread of something still breathing in the ruins. She stepped closer, slowly, her eyes begging, not for forgiveness, but for a chance to begin again. Chukwudi turned to Mama. She looked at the baby, then back at him. "What will you do now?" she asked. Chukwudi looked down at Samto. He didn't answer right away. He just began walking toward the house, toward the light spilling through the open door. As he passed his children, he placed his hand gently on Chidibem's shoulder. Then Amarachi's. Then Ibuka's. Then, with all 4 children now beside him, he stepped inside. And the door closed behind them. In the quiet that followed, Adaeze stood alone in the compound, tears tracing paths down her cheeks. The well lay undisturbed, its darkness untouched. Inside the mansion, Chukwudi sat with all 4 children, Santo nestled against his chest. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight, he chose love over vengeance, truth over pride. And the house, at last, exhaled. That's the end. Kindly like, subscribe and comment what you think.